Good evening, guys. The subtext for today's podcast, To Beer Hai, which follows a cuss, of course, comes from the famous scene of the 2015 OTT series TVF Pitchers, where a friend encourages another to break his 9 to 7 routine and work on his own terms and do more than he's capable of. The startup bug and the glamour of being called a founder had stung the IT hubs in India since then, especially in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Gurugram. And over the last 15 years, the startup space in India has quite matured, for good or for bad. But that is a testament to the fact that many tenured professionals always go through the infamous entrepreneurial itch, right? Let me be honest, it's absolutely not necessary that being an entrepreneur would yield you more personal wealth than being employed or salaried. One can excel being employed as well. Corporate jobs have been paying well for quite some time now in India, which means it's not about one being better than the other, but an entrepreneurial itch is different. It's a character trait, if I may call it. Somebody wants to build products and sell products. Some wish to build companies and ecosystems. Some build service engines. Some just want to burn someone else's money. There are so many kinds of us out there, right? But then there is a calling to do something of your own, to create or build something that you can call your own. This constant thought of business and the feeling that I'm not doing enough for myself, that I'm yet to reach the pinnacle of my potential, is deeply unsettling. And that does not let me enjoy my present. Okay. It is not about being cool, about being called a founder or a co-founder, but it is the sheer dissatisfaction of the structure of employment. Okay. If I have to put it in better, very politically correct words. Yet somehow being a product manager quenches my thirst of being an entrepreneur in spirit in many ways. The job function demands a product manager to be multi-skilled, multifaceted, one who must watch out for multiple success factors of a product. And I have always encountered product owners and product managers who express to start on their own. They may be working in tech space today, but the business they dream to build crosses many realms. So to say, product managers make great entrepreneurs. So guys, I'm with my soul drink. Cheers. This is, for the record, honey-colored water.
Well, we all know that it's honey-colored water. So
Yeah. Product managers make great entrepreneurs. So guys, cheers.
Yes.
Why don't we start with some storytelling today? Have you scratched your entrepreneurial itch, and what has it been like? Amit, why don't you go first?
Oh, you put me on spot, Ameya.
Yep.
Yes, and it's a story of a prince in shining armor, or a story of an action hero who was denied his right in this world, and then how he went into the dungeons, got those superpower things. Mine were product manager shields, and then became the Iron Man he ever wanted to be. But yes, so it's that exciting. And then please don't miss the climax. But I've been born in family of job seekers, and very young I wanted to be a job giver. I started selling comics when I was 10 years old. Then at about in 7th standard in our school, school annual show, I was selling popcorn. And then while I was in college, I was teaching, and these days I sell my product management skills.
Awesome.
So
That's quite some background, Amit. That's interesting.
yeah, it's been fun to have, see people get delighted by what you do, and try to make people's life easier. It's while it's that still cliched term, make people's life easier, but then you realize that if you can give more, be honest, be a problem solver, or at least ask the right questions, then there are a lot of people whose lives can be done better in a more cliched way. But yeah, that's what entrepreneurs do. They solve problems and then they solve it at scale. So doing that, doing those these days, helping people, product management, and solving their pricing questions. But,
What a great
yeah.
point, solving at scale. That was well said. Yeah. Mohit, do you want to go next?
Sure. I think Amit's story was really interesting. So, if I talk about myself, right, what I feel is it's more of a want than a need, if I have to put it right. Like it's more about the feeling has existed forever, and then it just ignites occasionally, if I have to put it. And that's, that could be one of the reasons that it's not been a full-time entrepreneur, I've seen in myself, right? Similar to, what Amit mentioned, my background is also all service class throughout. But if I talk about my individual personality, being extrovert, it's always like I look to be street smart, that's where, some of the skills come in. And then there have been couple of interesting stints wherein I've tried to become an entrepreneur outside of the product manager role and all that. It's where, I got an idea, okay, and did some research where healthy habits among Indians, right? So started something. It's sometime now 12 years or so. That was my first stint. And then a lot of learnings, I'll call it. And the other one was pretty recent, just a year and a half ago or something, right? Where it's all about seeing the pain point or an opportunity and trying to see it. So if I talk about myself, right, it's like I always look for challenges, and I see that entrepreneurship would give me that platform where I see the most struggles, right? That's one of the kick I always look across. It's like every hour brings a new challenge. That's why there's that, thing. And trust me, and it's being very open about it. Like I always seek out, okay, there's something that can click, and then I can transition or think around that. And I think with our generation, we always think about second channel, right, everywhere. So that's become another reason to kick into it. So that's been my brief journey, at least if I talk on the entrepreneurship.
Awesome. So it's basically opportunity seeker. That is well summed up. Yeah. Great. Good one.
Nice story.
It is.
Yeah, I think very inspiring stuff, guys. And the Amit's story reminds me that I think when I was a kid, me and my cousins were also selling comics outside our houses. Yeah, a lot of fun, especially during summer holidays.
Yes.
I think for me, yes, I think you get that itch. So yeah, I'm not alien to that. And I've been lucky to be surrounded with a lot of friends who are product managers, right? I mean, 3 of them are over here, and otherwise as well. I mean, I have a good company of friends. Some are also based in the US, Canada, and things like that. So in 2015, I think my wife, some of our friends, and me, we did give it a shot. Of course, alongside our jobs, we tried a bit of a cycling holiday startup. So the idea was we experience India on bicycles and experience the interior, the villages, the small towns, the scenic landscapes, the local markets, so not the commercial India, not the metropolitan India that we know about, but take people into the heart of India on bicycles. And this was a very experiential concept. We also tried to curate some luxurious properties in those regions. So all were kind of boutique homestays and B&Bs and things like that. So yeah, we did give this a shot in 2015. So about a couple of years we tried, and yeah, it was very, very energetic work. Some things that we were very excited about. We got our first customers. We had our first ride from Pondicherry to Kochi. We've got our video on YouTube. If you search for Ride of Pi, hopefully it should pop up. So I think we've definitely scratched that itch. Unfortunately for us, it didn't scale. We didn't end up entering to the growth phase. I think we struggled to get a good product market fit, and after a couple of years, we did kind of shut shop. So yeah, I think totally relate to the great introduction, Ameya, by the way. I think how you introduced the concept, I think I can totally relate to that. And yeah, tried it, failed at it, but I also feel that I've gotten that same adrenaline rush also being a product manager within my organization as well. So I've been lucky to be a part of a couple of products that really got me very, very excited. I spoke about one of them in my previous, in the previous podcast as well, about the Macmillan Education Australia bit that I was doing. So I think I've gotten opportunities to experience that within my job. And yeah, as Amit was saying, I think we tried to do that by selling our product management skills or through consulting and things like that. So yeah, hopefully we can continue to keep the spark going.
Awesome. So you actually made side hustling cool when it wasn't. So that is great. You're clearly ahead of your time, not just with side hustle, but also I think with the concept. The Ride of Pi sounds a very thoughtful name. Very well thought put, and great job, guys. Okay, time for my story, and I'll try and keep this a short one. So yeah, in my second year of engineering, I learned to program web apps, okay, and with ASP. It felt easier than PHP back then for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, I would definitely put my money on PHP today. But I did a lot of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and also mastered Macromedia Flash, which was later acquired by Adobe, etc., for graphics and animation on static websites. Within a few months, I became a solopreneur. It was very, very incidental, I would say. I did not earn well, but just enough to cover up for my final year tuition fees and also buy a new laptop. Again, that was not the intent of why I was starting. It was just about a learning experience, etc. This was exciting on multiple levels because it got me talking to so many people, exposed me to so many ideas and perspectives, and used my creativity to translate that into web portals, which was brilliant. So I was loving the kick that it was giving me. In a short span of time, I built over like 30 or 50 websites, mostly by myself and some help from my friends when deadlines were critical, etc. Incidentally, because of this, I was not looking for campus placements. And I was just volunteering in the placement committee of PICT when this software giant landed first at our door. The whole day went by with this computer-based test. They used to have these elaborate rounds of interviews that time, a CBT, then a group discussion, and then 3 rounds of PI. They used to pick up like about 10, 12 cream students from PICT, and I was definitely wasn't one of them. As the day closed by 8 p.m., one of the recruiters from the team approached me and asked me if I did not clear one of the rounds. And I responded saying I did not even apply. And he was like, so can we talk for a few minutes? I said, sure. And what followed was a 1-hour interview where I spoke about the same thing. I told them about what I was doing with the websites, etc. And I'm pretty sure that went noticed, right? Along with the way I conducted maybe 100 plus students that day, along with 3 of my committee members in the placement committee. I'm pretty sure that counted. But at the end of the day, what they did was they put me through a 3-month COBOL JCL MVS training and put me in the Chennai office, and I was in front of a mainframe, right? And one fine day, I just wrote an email to the HR saying, this is definitely what I don't want to do. I don't know what I want to do, but this is definitely not that. And overnight, I literally left that job and I came back home, obviously embarrassed and ashamed and obviously jobless. And of course, a derailed entrepreneurial spirit because everything had paused because I went into this job thing. Fortunately for me, I realized that job is not going to cut it out for me for a very long time. So 10 years, I stayed with different companies, worked with different companies of different sizes. I was with a startup, with a small company, Neova, where I met Amit. I was there with Tieto. I was there with Honeywell. So worked with companies of all scale, even SunGuard for that matter. Until I realized one fine day that I want a seat at the table. I was ready to assume the risks for the reward. I was ready to absorb the liabilities for value creation. And staying in the job wasn't going to cut it. Job actually became my fallback, my plan B. If nothing else worked, I was confident that I would at least get a job and sail it through. That decision turned out to be the right one. And today, I mean, even when I get employed, or rather, when I seek out employment opportunities, the stakes have to be really high for me. And the vision has to be grand. It has to be larger than life. Otherwise, I just do not feel like it is worth my time, because there is so much of disparate things that I love to do. And product management, like you said, Munish, definitely gives that opportunity. Yeah, that was my story.
I liked how you quit on COBOL or mainframe.
It
Oh,
it
man.
was planned, looks to be a logical planned way, but it isn't, right? It's like, how the destiny landed you in different spaces.
I agree. Yeah. So I did make a few unconscious choices, which they turned out to be the right ones, in the hindsight, of course. Later on in my career, about after 7 to 8 years, and Amit knows this, when I was working with Neova, then I started to make more conscious choices on even the kind of projects that I wanted to work on. I started saying no to a few things, these short-term assignments, etc. So yeah, that did happen. But okay, so that brings me to something, and you need to raise your glass if you want to answer this question. Okay, so let's do it that way. What does being entrepreneurial mean to you? Like, can you define it in your own words?
Yeah, I'll just keep it very simple. To me, entrepreneur is, if I have to term it, it's more about being the owner of your own destiny, right? It's like, I think I called about it, where you get to see the struggles as well as, if I have to put it, all shades of life, right? It's at least, you don't get to see all those shades if you are into a job, is what I feel. You're not even 100%, right? That's if I have to put it. And also one of the key thing is about risk taking, right? So I feel it is more about how much risk appetite you have, that also defines that. And again, related thing is, if you are even ready to put all eggs in one basket, right? So I think that these are 3-4 aspects what help me to define an entrepreneurship and what it really means.
So well said. Yeah, risk is there for sure. That I can tell you. Who's raising the glass next? I mean, I'm just raising to have a sip.
I can go next. I think one thing that I feel that really stands out for being an entrepreneur is, I think you also mentioned this in the introduction somewhere, which was kind of looking for the opportunity to break the status quo. I think an entrepreneurial mind is always, like Mohit was saying, that he's a seeker, or trying to look where he can kind of get that opportunity. I think being an entrepreneur, even while in our day-to-day jobs, if you're as a product manager, you look for, okay, where can you find that opportunity to be able to break the status quo. So I think if I were to say, of course, there are other aspects as well about to be able to challenge the regular routine, how to be how to find that idea that can give you a huge upside. So you look for those opportunities. But if I were to say one thing, I will say kind of challenging the status quo and looking for that opportunity. Always being on the hunt of the opportunity. Always trying to have your ears and eyes wide open to be able to spot that opportunity.
So cool, guys. I love this conversation, the way it's shaping up, by the way. Yeah, awesome. Amit, what does being entrepreneurial mean to you?
Well, these folks have said all the good things of being an entrepreneur. So I'm not sure if I can these are exactly the sentiments which go through my mind, but it is just the itch.
Got it.
Probably the grass is
Got it.
greener.
Can I add one? I think one thing that just it came to my mind was, like you said, right? To come up with a vision. I think for an entrepreneur or for a product manager as well, to be able to craft a vision that can inspire people. I think that, so you're great, you've been able to
Yes.
spot an opportunity that everybody's missed, but can you get people to, rally around that vision statement? So I think that's another key trait if I were to call out something that just struck my mind. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Love that.
Yes.
Yeah, so let me just add on to that. So I did have my notes ready for this question for sure, because I wanted to articulate very well what exactly means to me. I mean, if you look up Google or even ChatGPT, I'll be honest, I did ask ChatGPT on what entrepreneur means to ChatGPT, and it gave me like a list of 25 points, okay? And I was like, no, it can't be this complex. So I decided to pick 3 things which meant a lot to me. And the opportunity definitely tops the list. So I love how Mohit, Munish, everybody echoed this, that seeking opportunity and making it shine, right? I mean, the zest to make it big is great. So if you have already bought into the idea on that opportunity and you're absolutely convinced that it'll cut it, great for you. That's the first start of your entrepreneur journey. Second thing, which is most important to me, was having the most fun that you have. The journey is very, very important. I mean, without really focusing on where you get to it, whether you will raise money, whether you will make money, or whatever it is, the journey is very important. Having fun, whether it is a job or whether I'm doing that assignment, is so important. That is where the line between work-life balance kind of blurs, and I really like that. I mean, there is no stress. There is zero stress of switching to work or switching back to my regular life or nothing like that. It's very smooth. The transition is brilliant. And the third thing, which I didn't know whether this would be complex or not, but the ability to define your own constructs of productivity, collaboration, and delivery. So if you can define your own constructs without having to resort to something which is already laid down for you. I'm not saying that following somebody else's method per se, but having that autonomy is great, because then you can focus on the goal which actually feels larger than life. I mean, that goal is all. You have that buy-in. And then Munish said that you'll have to actually convince other people also to join that boat. Because someone told me that an entrepreneur creates companies' ecosystems, right? Which means they thrive even in the absence of the founder. This is a great definition. I mean, that is an entrepreneur. If that is not happening, like you are not a part of the equation and things start to slow down and subside, then you're just self-employed, right? There's a difference between that. And I've realized that maybe I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm maybe more self-employed, and I do not regret that. I mean, I'm absolutely okay with doing a majority part of it because I absolutely love it. That's the part of the journey which I enjoy the most. And yeah, I definitely scratched that itch many times. I mean, when I realized that it's so easy to form companies and actually shut them down also, it's actually become very easy to kind of make an MOU and register, get some registrations and get the ball rolling, just have the legalities done and aage ka dekha jayega. When the business happens. Anyway, so moving on to the next question, this entrepreneurial itch, we have circled back so many times that product managers happen to kind of are already almost there, or rather they are already entrepreneurial in their respective jobs. So what do you think might be the reason why is this itch so common amongst product managers?
Is it that diagram that says product manager is a CEO with their own product? I'm not sure, but there is this product manager that sits in interaction of design, engineering, and customer. Maybe that. Or maybe people believe that this job has, you get to make roadmap, you get to make vision statement, you get to make collaborate cross-functional, you talk to sales, or maybe a combination of all of these things. But for me, it has helped me. So before you become an entrepreneur, at least for me, I was working in various jobs and had learnings from all of them. Being a coordinator, project manager, game producer, that built up my skill set along with my education and family values. But so when I wanted to take a push or plunge into an entrepreneurship or being able to give jobs to a lot, I think the product manager job was one job that kind of gave me all the information, built me towards it. You get to see so many myriad facets of people, information, be that company formation, be that looking at the legal text, terms and conditions, or even when you're pitching to investors, how to pitch to the investors. So this is that one job that helps you prepare for being an entrepreneur like no other job. So yeah, I think it's a new age MBA, if I may call it. But yes, it's something which helped me get towards a better entrepreneur. So yeah, those qualities.
Awesome. Mohit, Munish, anybody wants to go next?
Yeah. Maybe I can go next. I think Amit summed it up pretty well. I'll just add few things. So if you really see this product management as a role, right? So it's by design, you are an entrepreneur in your own world, right? Essentially, if you see the landscape, be it sales, marketing, operations, technology, leadership. So what you are trying to do, what you are juggling, right? You are juggling to manage these expectations, pacifying them, and at the end of the day, also finding a monetization path. It's just that the P&L is for the reporting when you are in the job, but not actual cut you are getting, right? So if I have to put it differently. So if you really see, product management gives you, it's actually one of the fewer fields where you can become a CEO sooner than you anticipate, right? So it's like, you can become, even if your hair are not gray, right? So if I have to put it, otherwise you have to go through that ladder and everything. So just summing it up, I think the landscape and the ecosystem and the expectations, right? They actually expect you to take the control of things, drive forward, as well as make money. So in a way, almost 80 to 90% of pieces, except your money might not be a stake or something, somebody's else. But somewhere, if you really see, the landscape is almost there 80% in day-to-day jobs that we do.
True.
Yeah, I think these guys have nailed it, right? So I don't think I can add much. I think, there's so many commonalities, right? I mean, whether it's working with your users, working with businesses, identifying what's the right metrics that you want to move, building that empathy, understanding what are your negotiating metrics, what is something that you want to be least negotiable about, what's something that you want to be most negotiable about, having an iterative way to deliver your product, identifying what's the right experiments that you want to run at the beginning, get big feedback, having that iterative incremental way to kind of build that product, managing risk. So and whatever I said, you can fit all these things both in a product for a product manager and also for entrepreneur. So I think it's amazing that how natural these roles, how nicely they amalgamate with each other. And I think that's how probably why we see a lot of product managers having that itch and a lot of product managers ending up becoming entrepreneurs as well. So possibly, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys stepped on all of my points. So I'm just still going to talk anyway. I'm going to address that particular persona who is still a product manager, but is still looking out to scratch the itch, right? So he's doing everything that all three of you said, right? But he still is going out and he's still not satisfied enough with the job, right? And then what might be, if you look at that particular persona and then try and understand that he's a great entrepreneur and I want him on my team so that he rallies my product better, what would you do? So that his itch is scratched with me and not anywhere outside. I think risk, we already addressed risk, but if you compensate it well with reward, I think it does well. If you raise the stakes for people, you tell them that you have enough equity, enough share in both the asset and the liability that the product creates. It's great. You have a share in the P&L. So yeah, so you equate the risk with the reward, sufficient reward. I think people will stay back. The itch is all about providing them some remedy for their itch, right? The second thing which I believe is that if the PMs, the product managers, aren't really sold on the product vision and strategy, they will definitely want to probably do something on their own. It'll be very hard to build that conviction, right? I mean, it goes back to our first podcast wherein you may not be even a right fit for that particular product. And that is the reason why it has happened on Shark Tank also, that some entrepreneurs, some founders have actually become successful businesses, even in spite of not receiving funding on Shark Tank. That is because the founders can see something which the sharks cannot. So it's quite possible that you are entirely convinced of the market and the idea and what you want to build the business of, and somebody else cannot. So I do believe that if you want these product managers who are already entrepreneurial, carry a very strong entrepreneurial spirit, you need to learn. I mean, as a employer, maybe they would need to learn how to retain these guys with them, because they can do magic, is what I believe. But yeah, okay. I think too much of favoritism and too much of push is happening towards product managers. Yeah. But I think they deserve all the accolades for what the kind of ambiguity and complexities that they deal with on a daily basis. But anyway, so we spoke about all of this. Now an important question. So when do you decide that you want to take the leap?
So, well, all I was going to say is that before taking a leap, what comes in the way of taking that leap? Maybe I want to address that part of, what are the roadblocks you would see, and before you can become an entrepreneur. And our definition of entrepreneur says a full-time person, but you can be a part-time entrepreneur too. However, yes, I would say some of the considerations to all the people who want to become entrepreneur is financial stability. Make sure that you have enough finances to back you up. Because entrepreneurship is too hard. Only 1 to 2% of startups succeed. And if you are building something which takes time to build, to market, maybe a new product, maybe a new service getting launched, having that stomach to kind of go through for all this for all the time is something which you should think of. A lot of people know, and they move or they along the idea too much, but entrepreneurship is about taking chances and doing the pivot. So are having a thought that this particular idea would sustain for a longer time, and you do not pivot. So that thought sometimes comes in mind of being an entrepreneur or persevering along the way. And then the last thing which I feel is entrepreneur's journey is not alone. So having the right team, having the right people along, if you're not able to find, then it's difficult. Most of the famous companies we know of had 2 or 3 founders. So, yeah.
And then broken apart.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my take on it.
I think my boring answer would be that I don't think it's very easy to pick the right time. And I think it's quite contextual. While I think I was speaking with somebody, I remember this conversation with a friend in Pune, and he was telling me just ensure that you got the kitchen should be running. You got a shelter on top of your head, should be running. And I think you ask different people will have different kind of recommendations. Of course, what Amit said, I think I completely agree to that. But I also feel a lot of it is also kind of the fire in your belly or the kick that you have, and when it comes, and you might just want to do it at that point in time as well. So I think that is that. One thing I felt that at least when we had a side hustle a few years, kind of 6-7 years ago now, which was kind of a need of a support network. I think, like what you said, I think when we kind of experimented, the whole startup culture was probably, I mean, we probably tried to, but it kind of became hot. So I don't think we had a support network. I don't think we had people whom I don't think we had any mentors. We had any people whom we could take, sound advice from. I don't know whether it will actually, how much will it help, but I do feel it's useful to ensure that you are not lonely. You are getting good advice from people whom you can, who've been there, done that, and you got a good network. I think apart from that, what Amit mentioned, like a good team and things like that, I completely agree to that. So yeah, that's a bit about me. I don't know what you guys feel about it, but yeah, over to you, Mohit.
Sure,
You both tick the right boxes for sure. But Mohit, let's see what's on your list.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I'll just touch upon one of the point Amit mentioned, right? A part-time entrepreneur. At least I have a slightly differing opinion. If we are calling us part-time entrepreneur, I would call it more coming from a need than a want, right? So if I have to put it better, and conviction, what Ameya you mentioned, I think that's one of the important thing, right? So self-belief, because I remember one of the things, like, as I mentioned 1.5 years back, there was something we were working, and then came down to a setup where either I had to do it full-time or a half-time, right? Like a part-time, what we call it. And then, if I am not convinced, then the question came in, how we can even convince the investors or anyone who even wants to buy our product, right? So that's where I feel that conviction, self-belief is the, important parameters that we should consider. Risk appetite, definitely. I think that circles back to what Munish and Amit mentioned, wherein, that landscape, how it looks like, what are your priorities in life, whether you have, that knack to navigate in that unknown space, right? So these are other important things. And if I say, what is the right time or when one does take the leap, I think every time is the right time. I'm a little optimistic than the group, it seems, at this moment, right? It's just that, at least if I talk about the checklist, it's like you have a problem, opportunity, little bit of validation, and then conviction, and then I think stage is all yours. It's just that you have to be very clear on the opportunity cost, right? We always say there should be 2-year backup. There are a lot of principles, right?
Right.
But there it is again subjective. So that's how I feel about this journey, and what I would also give in my opinion around.
So true. I love how I don't have to talk a lot after this question, because you guys pretty much summed up everything. The few things that I would like to add is it is very important to scratch the itch. The timing does not matter, but you have to decide whether you want to do it or not. And then once you have decided, please move on, because it will not give you peaceful sleep at night, and it will only come in the way of everything that you do, whether it is your professional engagement or a job or whatever you're doing. So if you're not doing that, and if you still have that itch, please do something about it, but don't stay unattempted of sorts. And to add to Munish's point, he's absolutely right. Going to the right advisors is very, very important. Today, you will find so many pessimist and conservative investors that anybody who is saying something like, भाई तो कुछ और कर ले, तेरे भले के लिए बोल रहा हूँ, you have to completely ignore their existence. I'm not saying that they don't give you a reality check, but they may not be the experts to give you that reality check. So it is very important to go to the right advisors for sure. And that's all. I mean, they just have to plan for it, take the leap. I think if you continue to wait, there is never going to be a right time. And today, since side hustle is popular, you can definitely use your evenings, your weekends, and just try out something. Fail if you must, like how Amit said, and even Munish said. Try to fail at least, but don't leave it unattempted. It is very important to know whether you had it in you or not. And then you can actually plan better. There are not going to be many years that you're going to be working anyway. So yeah. That makes two optimists, Mohit. So yeah, cheers on that. All right. So Wow, to the tapering end of the conversation. Now let's assume now there are two pessimists and two optimists. But if people still had to start tomorrow, how do you think they would go about it? Or what would your recommendation be? So we already said there is subjective criteria. People would want like a 2-year backup, some kind of a formula, financial stability, opportunity cost, risk assessment. We said all of that, right? But okay, let's assume that is sorted out and we are ready to start tomorrow. Close this podcast tomorrow morning. There are 4 companies getting formed, right? So how would you go about it?
If you are Sam Altman and you have 100 million in 5 years and you're doing something generational shift, you could do that. But for the rest of others, start with the customers first. See if you can find a customer. See if somebody can help you get an IBM order for a program, and then put that into a computer.
I love how you aim high even in your examples. Love that.
Well, that's how it happened, right? Microsoft.
Oh, yes.
So it really, because you can then start looking at problems other face and implementation of your idea. So that would be the advice I would say to anyone who's listening this podcast, if there is.
Yeah, since you're complimenting my thought, I will just go immediately after you. You're right. I mean, so validation from customers, at least if you can build an array of 5 customers or at least minimum, who probably come from different demographics, who can give you credible feedback for at least some amount of money, if not free, definitely not free. That will help you actually estimate your cost and time to market very well. That will actually help you to even identify what kind of team members do you need on your team, what kind of skills do you need to even gain and retain those customers. So I'm a big fan of intrapreneurs, people who are with that entrepreneurial spirit within the company. They do everything, whatever it takes to see the product successful, right? That is one line vision statement for them. I mean, I personally am not a visionary. I'm not a revenue strategist. It's not like I can create or carve a market niche and serve that. I'm rather a big fan of something like SAP business model, which keeps on reinventing itself. This year, the revision is due, right? They keep the consultants and the customers kind of happy and revise their business model. It's so hard for a company that large to actually just break down the business model and construct all over it again. I feel they're the true example of Sabke Saath Sabka Vikas. They are earning, the product license is happening, consultants are making money, everybody is just happy and merry. And that ensures the continuous revenue stream and keep it flowing. So even if you have or you don't have an MVP, you just have a prototype that you have taken to this, you are at least solving for your existing pain points. People are willing to pay for that pain points to be alleviated. That works. So yeah, I think I would also go with that, what you said, validate it with customers, take your prototype to them, keep your revenue stream flowing, keep a tap on profitability for sure. I wouldn't say profitability, even if you're like, maybe not making profits, but at least breaking it even, some money is coming, it's absolutely fine. Validation is what is most important. Yeah. Munish, Mohit?
Yeah, I can go next. So one thing is that I definitely don't want to be in the pessimistic basket. So I don't know how I ended up being there.
Hey, same thing.
Yeah, I think kind of correcting. I don't know.
The optimists have converted them.
No, I think what I really meant was it's a personal decision. I don't know whether I was able to convey it clearly or not. So I think we can give advice and things like that, but it's got to happen when it's got to happen. So it's more of a personal decision at the end of the day, is what I think. But coming back to the specific question that you've asked, and taking it ahead from what Amit mentioned, and somebody I think asked Sam Altman, right, last week, I got 3 engineers with $10 million, and should they start now? And he said no to that. He said, yeah, give it a try, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Build models from scratch. So
Rajan Anandan asked that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think the answers will depend to whom you kind of ask, and some will probably make fun of you, and others will probably give you good advice. But sorry for the boring answer, but I'll probably still go back to the first principles that we discussed in the previous episode of this podcast. So, by the way, Ameya, if you remember, Mohit and I, we tried that design sprint in Pune, right? A few months back. And I think concepts like that could be very handy to validate your ideas. So I completely agree that if there is a way in which you've identified an opportunity, but you can also run some experiments to get early feedback without much investment. I mean, that design sprint, even if you do it the whole prescriptive way, you can probably pull it off in 4 to 5 days. And that feedback is in. So I definitely agree with you that without repeating things that you mentioned, but techniques like design sprint, I'm a big fan of that. Another thing I'm quite a big fan of is visualizing your plan on a piece of paper and kind of putting it in front of you and trying to connect the dots, what the whole ecosystem is kind of looking like. Because a lot of times we have things in our mind, but when we do things collaboratively with a bit of a team and try to get people to poke holes in what we are ideating, refines that idea a lot. So of course there are tools available and canvases available like the lean canvas and the business canvas and things like that I think those could definitely be tried, but find a way to be able to put your thoughts on a piece of paper collaboratively with a team, identify what will be your experiments, identify what's the learning that you want to come in. Is there a path to profitability? What are your revenue stream? What's the kind of cost that you want to incur? So there will be a bit of a, how should I say, paperwork, or there will be things that you've got to do to prepare yourself well to execute your experiments and to execute your startup. And there's no getting away from that. So yeah, in addition to what you guys mentioned, those are a couple of things that I just wanted to kind of squeeze in. Yeah.
So true.
If I have to do it tomorrow, I'll again go more of a little thoughtful and then keeping it as a blank slate if I have to call in. But what few things which I would actually do is, it's like, making the effort time bound, which I always feel, and always, I think there's a principle that don't marry your idea. A lot of times we just get, okay, this can we get into the business. So I think that pivot point is always something that I'll keep on my head, hanging around like a sword is what I'll call it. And the other thing is, I think important aspect is the monetization. What I feel is to be successful, and if I have to pick it up tomorrow, the first thing I'll think around is how to monetize that to at scale, so that at least there is some vision that looks across. I think we talked about vision, we talked about larger picture and other thing, but take it in a way, if there's no incoming money, till what we can sustain. So I somehow feel these would be my first principles to think through, rather than idea and opportunity. I somehow feel even a product market fit, a product is made and a market is made, or a market is there and a product is made. To be honest, a lot of enablers that we have today, right, marketing, social media and all that, you still can reach to a certain extent which would satisfy you. So these are my thoughts if I have to start, let's say, in next another hour on this journey.
Awesome, man. So yeah, that is so true. I mean, I also believe that the older you grow, the more skeptic you become, and sometimes experience can be a curse. I can tell you that for sure. But the good part is that I am fortunately not there yet. Okay, so having tried even maybe like 20 plus ideas already, I am still not a skeptic. I'm still fiercely hopeful on any good ideas that come through. I still don't have my next great $1 million idea, whatever. So you can make out that I'm still not there yet. But yeah, still trying out things. I love that. I mean, I would not invalidate something just at the face of it, because I do know a lot of people who would do this whole business model canvas exercise. They would do this profitability exercise. They would assess the revenue streams a lot. They would go down to this whole empathy maps, and then do everything, identifying the customer segments, going and doing the research, etc. And sometimes the research bias is also so strong that they're like, forget it, like it's not going to work out, etc. to invalidate at that point also is something which I feel is a little bit risky, because you might not latch on to that $1 million idea. But yeah, great conversation, guys. And I can't believe I finished my drink as well. So great. How do you like to conclude this?
Have fun, whatever you're doing,
To beer hai.
To be,
Go with the flow, right? Go with the flow. Yeah.
Yeah, go with the flow.
Keep it more simple is what I'll call it, because there's already a lot happening and lot being talked across startup to negativity to positivity. So at least what I'll feel is keep it simple, and not think too much.
True. And so many people on LinkedIn also, right? I mean, really great entrepreneurs on LinkedIn keep telling everyone that you don't have to be innovative or creative every time. You don't have to be inventive every time. If something is already done and you can improve it, that is also a great idea. If you feel that something is out there, even 10 other applications are there, but you still have the 11th great idea, which kind of cuts through these 10 ones, it's still well done, job well done. So yeah, there is no limits to ideas, but yeah.
people who have listened to our podcast, they should give feedback. Tell us what you like, tell us what you hate, and tell us if you want us to, continue, don't continue.
Oh, for sure. I'm going to make a snippet of this. It's going to repeat every time. Amit, you can assume that. Bye. Bye. Bye.